All right, we're going to unbox one of our fountains and set up a spray pattern with the parts. First thing to look for is this little box here. It tells you what you've got. So we know we've got a Fusion. It's a 1 horsepower, 220 volts and single phase. On the outside of the box is the paperwork, so the instructions and your warranty information. Make sure you take this off and put it in a safe place before you open your box. The motor serial number is in here, but it's also on the outside of the box, just written here. All right, let's open the box. So you're just going to cut the straps like so. And then you just have to lift the lid off the box. And in here is all the parts that you'll need to assemble the spray pattern. So you'll just need to lift the fountain up and off and move it to the side. You can just cut through the tape here, and inside this box are all the pieces and parts that you'll use to make up your spray pattern. In the box, you'll find all your nozzle parts here, screws and washers, and you'll also get a screwdriver in the box as well. You'll have your stakes and mooring rope, and the instructions will be in the paperwork on the outside of the box. Once you've unboxed, get out your instructions, have a good read through them, and pick out which pattern you would like to assemble, and make sure you read through that really carefully before you start. For some patterns like the Super Lily, you will need to unscrew this flare, which is this part here, and turn it around so that it sits like that. When you're ready to do your spray pattern, it's best if you grab your screwdriver and just inside unscrew the base from the fountain so that you can take this off and assemble at a table away from the elements. Now that we've taken our nozzle base off the fountain, we're going to assemble the Super Lily spray pattern. So with the Super Lily, we needed to remove the base and turn it the other way. Again, it's so important to do this at a table because you don't want to lose these tiny little screws outside in the grass. So to assemble the nozzle, we're going to have our instructions in front of us, and we're going to follow along here. So we've got nozzle tip 5, an elbow, and 2 screws. And with the elbows, they do have a little lip in here, but not on the other side. And that's how we know which way the elbow goes onto the nozzle. So we'll just go on there and lock in so it can't move. And you're going to take your screws, pop them in the top, and the other one. And when we screw it in, we don't screw all the way until it's tight. So just screw it part of the way and then do the other screw, part of the way. And then you can go back and tighten. And there we go. So that is what your nozzle will look like. The next step is to screw the flare onto the nozzle base. You will need 12 of the little screws, and you'll just place them in and screw them on. And you'll go around and you'll do all 12. Step 3, we're going to install the nozzle onto the base. You will see on the picture and in the instructions, there is a set of instructions for installing the nozzle on just the regular Fusion fountain. If you have an extension twister, then you will need to follow the second set of instructions, which tell you to use the holes that are on a 45-degree angle. So we are not going to do that for this one. So for the Super Lily, your nozzle will be placed like that, and there's a little lip in here so that the nozzle can only go one way, so that it doesn't move or shouldn't move. If it's the wrong way, it will move around like that. And also the nozzle will look like it's facing towards the center. You want it facing away from the center. If you have the extension, your nozzle will be placed on a 45-degree angle. So again, it's not facing outwards completely, it's on an angle, outwards and on an angle. So we've got our two little screws in the holes lined up ready to go, and we're just going to screw them in part way, and the second one part way as well. And then you can go back and tighten it all the way. The easiest way to do the nozzles is to start one on the outside and then go and do one on the inside, outside, inside, outside, inside. So now we've finished putting all of the nozzles onto our base, and this is how it should look for the Super Lily. Step 4, you will need to count out 11 washes, and they are going to go in the cup of the fountain. Okay, so this is the cup of the fountain, and we're going to stack our 11 washes just in here, like so. Now that we've done our washes, we're going to take our nozzle base and pop it on top of the outflow, like that. And then we're going to take this big long screw and pop that through the middle and through the washers. And we'll just screw that in. If you've put your screw in and the base is still turning, unscrew it just a tiny bit, wriggle this around, and again, screw it up nice and tight, and it shouldn't move. The next part is nozzle number 6, and this one has a plug that goes in there. So it'll either come with it already in, otherwise you'll just pop it in, and then this goes in the center. And this one doesn't have a lip, so it won't feel like it locks into place. And you'll just pop your two little screws in there. The easiest way to do it is to put your screws in first and line it up with the holes. And then screw it in. We're going to convert this standard Fusion model into a twister, which you can either, if you've purchased a twister at a later date, all you need to do is unscrew nozzle 6. Now that we've taken off nozzle 6, we're going to remove the screw that is right down the center. And you'll have to do this even if you're setting it up for the first time. You'll have to take this base off the fountain. Now that we've taken the nozzle base off the fountain, we need to unscrew each of these nozzles and change them so that they rotate 45 degrees, like that. So you'll follow the second set of instructions for a twister setup. place in the corresponding holes. In your Fusion Twister package, you'll get a labyrinth, a long rod with a bolt, the twister itself, which comes with a washer, and you'll get some additional small screws. The next step in the twister setup is to take your labyrinth and 6 small screws. You're going to place it on top of the fountain outflow, line up the holes, and you'll screw the small screws in. Before you place the rod in the center, you're going to measure out 7.5 inches so that the rod sticks out 7.5 inches. And then we're going to pop it in and screw it straight in by hand. Screw it all the way down so that the nut touches the base, and then you're going to grab your wrench and tighten it just a little, and then this won't move. Now we're going to take the cap off the twister. So there's a little screw in here that you're just going to unscrew, and it is a very short screw, so don't lose it. And you're going to take that cap off, give it a little twist, and it should just pop off. And that's going to go in the center. And you'll screw that in with 6 of these small screws. So when you're screwing down these little screws, don't screw them all the way in. Make sure they're sort of sticking out a little bit, and then do the next one, sticking out a little bit, and then go back and tighten them all the way down. Now we're going to take off this top bolt, and we're going to thread our nozzle base onto the rod and twist it all the way down until it touches the labyrinth seal. When you start to feel resistance, for the lily, super lily, and double arch lily, you're going to do 1 full reverse spin. For all other spray patterns, you do not need to do that step. You will then take your bolt and screw it back onto the top of the rod and screw that on nice and tight. The final step is to grab your cap and that little tiny screw, and you're going to line up the holes and place that back on top. Take your screw and screw that back in. With this little screw, it can be pretty tricky to put it onto the cap, so you can take your screwdriver and it will magnetize on to your screwdriver and screw it in.